Hello guys and welcome back to The Break. I am Patricia Bright and we are here providing you the tools to learn, grow and navigate life like a boss and make money moves in the process, hopefully. I hope you guys are doing well. Today, I wanted to do something about the most interesting subject in the world, accounting and finance. Hooray! No, seriously, people. I have wanted to do a video like this for the longest, and I wanted to talk about the accounting and the financial side of running your own business, being a freelancer, being self-employed, being an entrepreneur, because I know a lot of us think, this is boring. I don't need to think about this. This is long. I'm confused. And it can cause a lot of problems in the long term if you don't think about it. Listen, you can't hide from the tax man. Student loan are gonna find you. All that extra money you think you've got to enjoy for yourself might sneakily be burning a hole through your pocket and you're gonna go to prison. If our favorite celebrities are going to prison for tax evasion, what makes you think that they're not gonna find you? They're gonna find you, people. They're gonna find you. Now, all jokes and stuff aside, I feel like thinking about your financial management, your accounting, your finances when it comes to being self-employed or a freelancer or a business owner is the top priority. If you're not making money, then what is the point in doing it? And if you don't know how or what you're making, then you're gonna have some problems in the long run. And I think a lot of us sweep this stuff under the carpet, or we're so focused on doing the work and making the money that this bit gets left behind until it comes to bite us back in the butt. So I'm gonna cover the key things that you need to know to think about when it comes to doing your finance and accounting as a self-employed person, and some of the mistakes that I've had to overcome, literally. I know, accounting sounds like such a complicated term, and if you guys don't know, I actually studied accounting and finance at university. I can tell you that I knew from a book perspective what it meant, but I didn't know from a practical business owner perspective what it meant. And it's that typical example of you can be book smart, you can know something on paper, but when it comes to actually doing it, you don't have a clue. You don't have a clue till you're actually living and breathing that life. So what is accounting? Accounting, in my little summary, is the idea of recording and processing all the financial transactions that pertain to a business and business activity. It's like you've got some money going in, you've got it going out. You need to write it down and know what's happened with it. Now, once you've recorded that information, you're then able to produce some key financial statements. We need to know what's happened with all the money in the business, and then we need to put it on paper. This is my layman example, but the paper output, the financial statements, are the most important things for lots of different reasons. So firstly, you produce financial statements to make sure that you're providing all the legal bodies what they need to know. That's HMRC, it's Sally Mae, it's Student Loans Company, it's the tax man. By law, you need to provide certain figures, a certain number, in terms of identifying how much money you have made, how much has come into your company, where it's come in from, and you need to provide that information to the taxman so they can decide how much they're going to take from you. And if you are a good, upstanding member of society, you're going to give an accurate number so they can take their tax from you. And secondly, you also need those financial statements and that information to produce managerial reports. And for me as a business owner, I think this is really, really important. I need to understand where my money is going, what's it doing, what happened. I thought I made 50 grand, but I can't see the 50 grand. What's happened to it? Where's it gone? Managerial reporting is super essential. If you are a business owner, self-employed, and if you're at the top, you need to know what's going on within your company. And I used to avoid looking at financial statements. I didn't know what was going. I was just chugging along, but I didn't realize that there was a lot of information in those statements that made me change some of the behaviors that I had. I realized I was spending far too much in rents than I was spending on staff. So I made a decision to move location, not pay that amount in rent, and instead invest in a new member of staff. But if I didn't have my financial accounts to show me that, then I wouldn't have made those decisions as fast as I ended up making it. So yes, the accounting allows you to produce reporting. The reporting then goes to the legal bodies as necessary, and also to you to make management decisions. And some of the main reports that you produce are the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement, the income statement, and there's a lot of different reports that you can produce that are provided for different reasons. So guys, let's get into what we should actually do. So my first piece of advice is to separate your personal income from your business income. Now, this is something that I didn't do in the beginning. When I started making extra money on the side, which lots of people do who are like self-employed or freelancers, they might be working an actual job and then running a business. But you need to separate that money. What you make in your business for the moment, just don't see it as it being your own. The reason being is that when you kind of get money in your bank account, you kind of enjoy it, you kind of spend it, but you kind of need to separate those out, because there's certain things that your business is going to have to be able to account for and pay for at another point in time. But if you spend it all and see it all as your income to play with, you're gonna hit some problems. And I think it's really important to separate these physically in terms of having a separate bank account. I have a personal bank account that I'm paid from my business. My business pays a direct debit into my personal bank account, and then I have a business bank account. All my business transactions go into my business bank account. And I actually have multiple different business bank accounts because I have multiple different businesses. And I also always separate my account based on each business, because I want to know what each business is producing financially. So by separating your personal income from your business income, you're able to kind of protect yourself, not overspend the business's money, because your business will have some responsibilities to pay for, and you're also able to like budget your personal finances as well. See them as two separate things. That helps me lead on to my next point, which is to separate your person from your business as a legal entity. And this is through the process of incorporation. You need to set up an actual business to run your business from. And it's not just, hey, I'm a business owner, I got a website, but legally incorporation allows you to do that. Now, you might choose to be a sole trader, a limited liability company, an LLC, a partnership. There are a bunch of different company entity types. You need to work out what kind of entity is best for you. I took a while to do this. I never did this in the very beginning until I started to make enough money. I was like, wow, I actually need to incorporate myself as a business. I chose to go down the route of being a limited liability company, which is similar to an LLC in America, and it's different in lots of different cultures, but I set up my separate company. It was important for me to separate my company from myself, from a professional perspective, from creating invoices perspective, from an accounting perspective, and actually just becoming that official person. Setting up a business was important. For those of you who don't know how to do it, it's actually very simple. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You do not need someone to set up a company for you. If you're in the UK, you can literally do it through the gov.uk website, and you receive your certificate of incorporation. There's a small fee to incorporate a company, but it makes you a registered company in whatever country you are. If you don't have the time, or if you don't know how to register your company, you can pay someone to do it, but you don't need to do that. You can set up your company yourself. Another advantage of separating yourself from your company is that if there is a problem, or someone wants to sue you, or your company goes bankrupt, you have what they call limited liability, is that your personal assets can't be touched, but your business assets can be touched. Again, I'm not a financial professional, and it does depend on certain nuances, but that's the whole point. If I get into trouble in my business, they can't take my house from me. They can't take the money that I've got in my personal bank account. Rather, they can look at what assets the business has. And this is just prudent in general. You're kind of meant to do this if you're setting up a business. If someone wants to sue you, you don't want them to be able to come into your bank account, do you? Let them take what's inside the business. My next point is literally set aside 20% to 25% automatically. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. If you are running all these transactions in your business, you're getting excited, that's great. Create a separate bank account that takes 20% out. You want to put a direct debit, you want to put a fixed amount, you want to check your records regularly. Just take that money out and close your eyes. You're blind, you can't see it, it's gone, it's not yours. What people don't realize is that your accounts cover your period before. And you have made all this money in 1 year and then you spent it all in 1 year. Fine, you haven't paid tax for that year. The next year comes, they're gonna ask you, what happened to that money? You might not have the money this year to pay for the money that you spent last year. Because it's gone. It left the chap you built, it's gone. You still owe the tax man that money. It is the best thing to do is just set aside 20% as at a minimum to cover the costs that are going to come in the future. And also because you put it aside, you're not thinking about spending it for yourself. When I first started making money on the side, I was working as well. I didn't think about this. And yes, I was spending the money and no, I wasn't paying any taxes. Dumb. You studied accounting and finance. Bruh, what's going on? What is going on? I spent that money, and when it was like, oh, it's tax season coming, I was like, tax season? Tax season? What's that? I owed the government money. I didn't have enough cash to pay the amount that I owed them. I didn't have enough cash set aside because I'd blown it all on fun and enjoyments and got carried away that I was, making some money. So setting aside 20% is at a minimum something that you should do to prepare for the person who's going to come and say, you owe us. And if you want to be even more extra, probably set aside a little bit more, because there are expenses that crop up in a business all the time. That might be staff costs, something might break down. You might want to pay for an accountant. You might pay for other services that are essential in allowing your business to keep running. So setting aside money that you just don't see as your own or see as the business's is essential. Now, of course, if you're setting up a business, you obviously want money to live on, right? You're not doing this because you want to put it in a bank account and give it to the tax man. Of course not. But my next point would be to work out what you personally need to live on as a minimum. What's your rent? What's your personal costs? All that kind of idea. Have a clear figure of what it costs you to live and then pay yourself. If you are doing the whole pay yourself a minimum and then receive yourself a dividend, then yes, you can pay yourself a minimum, but not everyone is using that model. But you need to get an idea of what it's going to cost you to live and then only pay yourself that from your business. Set it up as a direct debit and allow the rest of it to sit inside your business. And of course, set aside some for your taxes and your expenses, but let the money bubble up and grow inside there. If you don't need the money personally right now, don't go into it. So guys, my next piece of advice is to keep good records. Honey, keep good records, bookkeeping. This is essential and something I did not do a lot of in the very beginning. And when I say record keeping, it's basically keeping a track of your invoices, your purchase orders, and your receipts. You need to work out from a paper perspective what your income is, who owes you, when they owe you, how much they owe you, if they've paid, when they paid, as well as the receipts on how much you spent, where you spent it, and what kind of object you spent it on. And this is really important, again, for producing your financial statements. And as I said, I never used to do this. I knew that someone would owe me money. I knew that I'd have a deal. I would know it in my head and I'd be like, hey, have you been able to send my payment over? And they would eventually send the payment over. It might be a month, it might be 7 weeks, it might be 7 months. So many, you never know how much time it would take to get something. Again, I don't run my business like that, anybody. Pay me my money on time, darling. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I never used to keep a record of it. And actually, I had a circumstance where I had reached a threshold to be VAT registered, and I was not aware of this. So in the UK, when you reach a certain amount of earnings, you need to register your company as a VAT registered company, and then you have to add 20% to every transaction that you do in regards to when you work with a client. So for every invoice, I put on 20% because I have to give that 20% to the government in terms of VAT. But because I wasn't doing invoices and I wasn't charging people VAT, would agree a number, I wouldn't put VAT on top of it. I didn't have any like paperwork or anything. They would pay me their money and I thought I was good to go. A year later, Patricia, you're registered for VAT, you've reached the threshold. No. When did I reach the threshold? A year ago. Oh, that's fine. I've been doing all these transactions without charging the extra 20% fee. I still owe that to the government. I ended up owing at least £20,000 in VAT charges. I was going to have to pay that out of my own pocket, or I was going to go back to every single client that I worked with and say, by the way, you need to give me an extra 20% for that job we did a year ago. Can you imagine? I had to do an exercise of going back to all my past suppliers, all my past clients, charging them an extra 20% on top of projects that we had done. So imagine if I did a project for £3,000, I was sending them a new invoice of £600 to say, can you give me £600 extra? Hey, you might not remember we did that project. Meanwhile, people had left the company, some of the companies had gone bust, and I still ended up having to pay that money out of my pocket. And I tried to get back what I could get back from people, but in some cases I wasn't able to. And if I had kept good records, I wouldn't have been in that position. And also when it comes to receipts, it's really important to keep receipts in the best way you can, because if you get audited by the government, they're going to want to see the paperwork to support what you're doing, or to support a transaction to prove it's actually a transaction. Again, I used to keep physical receipts in like folders. That's long. No one's got time to do that. I actually meant to keep records like that. I think it's for 7 years, but there are apps and stuff like Receipt Bank where you can take photos of receipts. But the majority of the time, all of my transactions are done online, and I usually have a digital receipt, or you can see reconciliations from my bank transactions. Now that actually leads on to my next point. Automate these processes. People, it's too much to think about. Has this invoice been paid? When did it get paid? Have I paid this person? This supplier is this, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of thought processes when it comes to managing a business, let alone when it comes to managing all the numbers and what's going on from a financial perspective. And this is why huge companies have the finance team. They have a team of people who are chasing invoices, raising invoices, creating purchase orders, managing receipts, and creating all kinds of numerical stuff, right? But if you're a freelancer or if you're self-employed, you do not have a team to do that, but you can automate it by using good software. I personally use Xero. This isn't sponsored. I used to use QuickBooks as well for my accounting, but I prefer Xero, to be honest, and I use different apps as well to like take photos of receipts. If you can automate your process, it makes things much easier. Using the software that is out there to, like, for instance, create an invoice, to send an automatic email to people who owe you money, to remind you that you need to pay something, makes life so much easier. I love using software that allows me to track all my numbers, but then it auto-populates and it reconciles transactions and puts them into my financial statement. It almost automatically does my bookkeeping, and I still have a very good accountant. Shout out to Sam, he's amazing. But him and his team, they're able to basically just check, reconcile things, do all the stuff that I can't be bothered, not I can't be bothered to do, but I'm a bit too busy to do. They just click, reconcile transactions, produce me my financial reports. But I do make it a lot easier by having the systems and the software that I need. Please, pen and paper is so like 19th century. We need to like automate it with the software and the tools that are out there. Every freelancer, every self-employed person has dealt with this, and it is people not paying you when you need to be paid, or not paying you at all, or disappearing. And a lot of people don't know what to do when this happens. And chasing your debt / managing your debt is gonna be something that is part and parcel with running your own business. You might produce something, they might say they don't want the item anymore and just go off radar. You might deliver the job, they might take forever to produce you what you're owed, or disappear. I've had this happen to me to the tune of £60,000. I was working with a media company, a media agency, quite a big media agency that was over, I think it was valued like really like highly. It was actually called Glam Media, and then it changed to Mode Media. And I had done some projects with them, 3 to 4 outstanding projects with them, and they had payment terms of 3 months. So oh my God, when I think about it, it makes my heart like, thinking about it, it was like one more day. And I remember receiving a phone call from someone who worked at the company, who was an amazing account manager. She was lovely. She couldn't do anything about it. She literally called me crying saying, Patricia, the company's going under. They've taken our laptops from us. I don't know what to do. I know we owe you a lot of money. The company's going under. I don't know what's going on. And I was like, the company's going under? What the hell? How do I get my money? Run me my check. And there was nothing I could do. The company was registered as bankrupt, and I was what is considered a supplier. As a supplier, I was very low down on the rug of who ends up getting paid their money back. And so obviously they have to pay building and stuff and whatever. The company went bust. I lost my money. I didn't get it back. And I didn't even know what I was into. I didn't know my legal standing on how to get my money back. So being aware of what your options are when it comes to debt is essential. But rather than it getting to that place, there are ways that you can protect yourself. Number 1 is to set up payment terms. Make those clear, make those upfront. You need to pay me within 15 days or 30 days or 60 days, whatever your payment terms are. You need to pay me within this period of time, or this and this will happen. I won't give you the finished product until I receive the final payment. Or you can take money up front, you can put terms inside your contracts, and you can also connect with debt collection agencies if you really need to go down the legal route to get your money back. But do be aware that you will have to charge them a fee. My accounting company actually have a debt collection arm, and because there's a lot of circumstances where freelancers and self-employed people are just left in the lurch and they don't know what to do. They want to get payment back from someone and they can't. But you're not alone. There are options out there. Just because you work by yourself, it doesn't mean that you're by yourself. There is options for you to collect debt that you are owed. The next one I wanted to say, and I think this sounds kind of crazy, and I'm a little bit of a goody two shoes anyway, but is to be proactive with financial bodies. Don't let them come knocking at your door to tell you that you owe them. If you think you might be delayed in paying, let them know. If you aren't gonna have enough, let them know. If you have some extra, send it over. Pay what you can when you can. And I think that financial bodies, you have to realize that there are people there who might be willing to help you. They're not always going to be willing to help you. They are not your best friend. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that. However, I had this circumstance. Not only did I have this issue with my VAT, I also had an issue when it came to paying my taxes, in that, as I mentioned, I'd spent a lot of my money up front and I didn't have enough money for taxes, and I was late. I was late over and over again. This was years back, okay? She's mature. This is why I like to talk about this kind of stuff, because I don't think everybody would say that, you know what, I had some issues with the tax man. And I remember actually writing a letter to HMRC about my case, about the situation. I said that I've been working a full-time job. I've been running a business on the side. It's grown bigger than I thought it was gonna grow. I started employing people, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't aware of how to pay my taxes and what to do. And this was a genuine, honest situation. And at that point in time, I think I had fees or charges or fines that was about the £15,000 mark. That was what I had gathered in fine, because it was years of accumulated non-payment or something along the lines of that. Wrote them this letter. They actually wiped out my fees, said don't worry about the fees, you just need to make the payments. I made the payment there and then. And for me, it was a lesson in terms of, you know what? Just sort things out. Don't bury your head in the sand when it comes to fees and accounting, that kind of stuff. Pick up the phone, call them, try and get in contact. Write a letter if you need to, but you know, you must be proactive when it comes to connecting with the bodies and just your finances in general. You can't run away from it. You gotta pay stuff. This is how life works. This is adulting. There are real costs that you've gotta get on top of, but there are some people who are willing at the end of the day to give you a helping hand. Don't think that you can't understand them and only a professional can understand them and you don't know. You can know. All information can be found. Now, the key thing is if you're willing to learn a little bit more about it. There's a lot of jargon when it comes to like accounting and finances and corporation tax and balance sheets and profit and loss statements, but you just want to understand the key principles, okay? You need to look at your own numbers and know what's going on. My final point when it comes to accounting and finances is not to be oblivious. Don't think that you're not smart enough. Don't think that you don't understand. You can find out what you need to know on the internet. Don't leave that responsibility just to a financial professional. Try and gain some understanding. It's not actually that scary. And I used to think that, oh, this is not something I need to know, or it's a bit scary, or let me just ignore it. Ignoring it never helped me. Trying to get the understanding to push your company forward, to push your finances forward is important. And I will say that if you do want to look for a financial professional, look for someone who you feel like you can connect with and has experience in the industry that you work in. When I came into this, I was using quite traditional accountants who just didn't understand the concept that actually, like, when I buy clothing, because you know my industry is what I look like and what I wear, that is expensible. That's not a director's expense. That is a business expense. I would not be buying this much clothing if I wasn't in the industry that I'm in, people. That's what I told them anyway. So you need to find an accountant that you can connect with, have a rapport with, and they understand your business and your direction as well. Okay guys, that is it for me. That is me sharing with you some tips and advice when it comes to finances and accounting and some of my stories as well. I hope you found this video useful. I know sometimes topics like this can seem a little bit like daunting, and my whole goal is to try and make it a little bit more like attainable without feeling so jargon-esque, like like I'm a lecturer lecturing you about accounting. I'm like thinking about my time at university where I didn't actually understand it from a business perspective. Like I got the grades, I got a job, not as an accountant, but I got a job in finance, but I didn't know anything about accounting and numbers in my actual business running. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the flip side. Be great, be fabulous. I'll see you later. Bye.